Hello, it's Brian here today, and today I'm going to talk about 10 basic CDs from the 90s era that are pretty accessible and good as well. Maybe they're a little not hip or something like that, but I think these are all pretty good CDs, so I'm going to talk about them. These are something that you might want to play at a party, something that you wouldn't be embarrassed to get into, or I wouldn't be embarrassed to get into with other people. Like, hey, that just came on, let's get excited about this thing that's coming on. As somebody who doesn't remember lyrics well, but I will say, hey, that's so-and-so. I really I remember that. That's cool. I don't sing along usually, but I will get into something if it comes on and I like it. And all of these I will definitely get into. And they're from the 90s. And the first one I'll talk about is Less Than Jake's Hello Rockview, which is kind of a harder one, not exactly a popular one, not necessarily basic, but pretty close to it. Album, it's a very good album. It's more rockin'. Personally, I kind of prefer Losing Streak before this, but I do have a love for this. I saw two friends really get into this at a bar one time. I was like, okay, I totally get this. This album is awesome because you two are getting into this. And I have not gotten to another Less Than Jake more so than that with another person. I saw two people do that before, so I got into it as well. And I was like, okay, I totally get that. And the next one I will talk about is Sugar Ray's 1459. This is an interesting album from 1999. Pretty good album. I like it a lot. Every Morning is kind of a hard song to get, but a very catchy song. I love it myself. Interesting album. There's a lot of styles on it, and there's some joke songs as well. And it's actually cooler than their hit song before the album. I always liked this more and had more interest into it. There's more 80s love in it and weird geekiness. I like this album a lot. Very cool, and maybe a trendsetter in a way. Next one we'll talk about is one of my favorite bands, Out of Time. This is probably the album they got out of the Cool People with the most. Green maybe a little as much as this, or not more, but this definitely put the the stake in the vampire's heart, basically, with Shiny Happy People. But this is a really good album as well. I love it. I would play it. I have it on the LP as well. I just really love the album. And I don't think it's dumb or too commercial. I think it's still really good. There's a lot of cool textures on it. Still love it. I don't think it's lame at all, but I can see how the hardcore fans would be disappointed as well. And the next one I will talk about is Jagged Little Pill, one of the best-selling albums of all time. It needs no explanation, but it got ironic wrong, but I get stuff wrong too, so I forgive it. I won't say, it didn't get quite the technical. I won't do that, but this is a pretty good album. I really like it. There's so many hits on it. I remember listening to it even as a youngin' with people at times, and there's an interesting attitude with it, and you gotta love it. And it's funny that she was a dance pop kind of thing before this, and she went kind of grungy and more textures. You gotta respect it. It's well earned. I really like this album as well. And the next one I will talk about is Dave Matthews Band, Crash. I really like this album. It's pretty jazzy. There's a lot of interesting styles on it. it's easy to make fun of the people in the band at times, but I really liked it at the same time when people kind of did that. And I thought it was pretty good and interesting, and I liked the textures on it. And I liked Crash Into Me, admittedly, even as kind of a romantic song, and I'm stuttering because I drank a lot. But very good album, kind of jazzy, interesting. Trippin' Hillbillies. Transition. And the next one I'll talk about is Blink-182 in 1999, before the 2000s, a pop punk great album. Always really liked this album a bit, maybe thought it was dumb at times, but it's a good album. I really like to listen to it, and I will definitely get into it if I'm with friends and listening to the album. I like All the Small Things. I like Adam's Song. I like What's My Age Again. I like it all. I like this whole album, actually. And all this stupid, perverted bull crap. Not necessarily, but it's I can understand it, but it's not necessarily good. The next one I'll talk about is Matchbox 20, Yourself or Someone Like You. This is actually a pretty good album. I had it back in the day, and I kind of ditched it early on, and I got it recently again. I really like this album still, and the lead singer has a distinct voice, so I respect it now, and I like the band as well. It's a little jangly and a little lesser rock, so I can get into it. Actually, more so now than I did back then, and I think it's a pretty good album still, and I got into it quite a bit listening to it again. Even as a very young, and I got this album and I got kind of offended because there's a song called The Swear Word on it, but there's a lot of good textures and interest on this album, and I can definitely listen to it again now. And even when I'm not drunk, honestly, but I liked it. And the next one I will talk about is Correct Rear View from Hootie and the Blowfish. Again, this is a really good vocalist, and I like the textures on this album quite a bit. Don't feel embarrassed playing the whole album, and very good vocalist again. Probably better than Rob Thomas, and some songs that you remember from the 90s, definitely something I play on a party, and something that many people have had before, and I still like it. And my next album is on my shirt as well. This is a Van Halen album from the 90s. This is, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, which, if you take the capital letters of each word in the album title, it spells a naughty word. But this album is actually pretty good as well. I really like it. There's a good ballad on it. Not more mid-tempo album. Mid-tempo track on the thing called Right Now. The album is not mid-tempo. There's a lot of records, and it rocks pretty hard. And it's not necessarily about solos and all that. It's pretty interesting, and there's a lot of songs about the in and out and pound cake, but it's a pretty good album too. It's a nice listen. There's a ballad on it called The Dream Is Over as well, but there's a lot of those songs as well, a lot of hedonism, but I really like this album. It's pretty good, solid. And then the last one I will talk about is one of the most hated Genesis albums, We Can't Dance. And it's definitely overbloated, but it's definitely good as well. I really like this album. One of the first videos I made recently is about this album, but it's a 90s album as well. that you can put on, and there's 2 good epic laid back pseudo proggy tracks on it as well. And you can definitely play this during a party, and people might get some of the tracks. Maybe they might say, wow, this track is kind of, but sometimes you need the tracks to ignore at the party as well. And this is a very good album. I really like it a lot. You got the Phil Collins you got ballads in there, and it gets there. Phil Collins solo album low thing with Hold On My Heart, but that's not necessarily what happened, but that's what is on this album represented in a way too. But I really like this. I would play this definitely to ignore for tracks that people know. And thank you for watching. Those are 10 basic 90s albums on CD that I have. Take care. Cheers.